Hello model railroaders, I'm Dave, welcome back to the layout. Going to be making some more molds, though I will not be going into as much detail as I did on the last video I posted. Hopefully you were able to stick with it and gain some information. I am going to be taking a page from my own recommendations, and instead of using the big plate of glass to use as the mold base, I'm going to use some smaller glass, in this case a mirror, pieces to put the mold walls on, so that once I've poured it, I can put it in the pressure pot and then put it under pressure to decrease any air bubbles that are within the mold. So I've got a mirror, which is, get the ruler out, mirror which is 2 3/4 by about 4 1/2. 2 3/4 by 4 1/2. Now, I also have, if you can envision it, that is the face, the glass front to a halogen light fixture. So one of the utility lamps, I guess they're called. So I undid that out in the garage. I'm not using it, so I'll be popping the clips off here to extract the glass piece, and that'll get cleaned up. And that is a 4 by 5 1/2 piece of glass. So that's another one that we'll be able to utilize. It's slightly bigger than the mirror. And the last piece is from a very large halogen utility lamp, and that one just popped out quite easily, and it is 7 by 5 1/2. Now that should be large enough as any of the largest mold castings that I want to do. And just to give you a comparison, I'll place it on top of the mold that was made in the last video, and you can see that that would be as big as I need to go as a piece of glass. That would need to go into the pressure pot, and we'll put the glass in there and get a look, and it fits in there just right. I wouldn't want to go any bigger, it'd be touching the walls. So that would be usable on both this level and the level below it. So, perfect, as Curly would say. It's just a matter of getting them cleaned up and breaking the what I've already hot glued down already to the large piece of glass. I will be using this large piece of glass as my work surface for these smaller pieces to lay on, so that I know that they're level and anything that spills up is easily wiped off this glass, or scraped off in the case of the other bits of glue and such. Something that I wanted to point out, I'm using the center of a cardboard tube. I can't remember what was on the exterior of it. However, I thought it was fairly close, that I could potentially do something on the outside and put a slightly domed lid on it to make it a tank for my refinery. However, I find that this particular one is very ideal for making a cast of this horizontal tank, and I'll show you where that comes from in a bit. What I've done is put on some smooth vinyl tape on the interior to have the silicone rubber, when it is poured into this mold, that it won't embed itself into the cardboard, because the cardboard is porous and the silicone will get into those pores, because the whole purpose of the silicone is to be able to flow into the details of whatever you're making a cast of. Now, that should hopefully allow me to push, if I'm really lucky, just push the silicone mold right out of this tube when I'm done. If not, then I'll have to cut down the edge to open it up that way to allow the air to get in to be able for it to drop out. I do want to keep this shell as where I mentioned in the previous video, where you want your mold to be round and not be oval, and in this case this was the shell that I had used. However, you can still see it's slightly oval and needs to be squished just a little bit to make it into round, so that the tank is properly proportioned as we would expect and won't look funny after the fact. However, this mold that has the thicker wall, the tank is round by default. So that is part of having that ½ inch of silicone to keep the mold wall rigid, as compared to a thinner wall that wants to not form your perfect circular shape. So that's why I'm using that, and I want to keep this shell so that I can ensure that the outer wall is supported appropriately, so the inner cylinder maintains its round shape. Now, that tank is similar. If I can find it now. Oh, there it is. That tank is identical to those there, so that will allow me to make more horizontal tanks for the different buildings and industry that I've got in the layout, because that adds a little more detail to any of the industrial structures of having a external tank, especially something along the lines of a manufacturing facility where the large tanks, and this will look familiar to you if you look from here to the top, that is one of the tanks that I used to make the mold. Though I didn't have anything tall enough, I couldn't go all 3 levels. However, I figured if need be, I can always bandsaw or handsaw, using a jeweler saw, a lower level off one of the castings I'd make and just glue it down to a two-level casting to make a third part. So you've got that flexibility in your molded items that you can chop them up and reattach them to other things or other copies of themselves to make them bigger or to modify the look. That's all I got for this video. I'll sign off for now, and let's get to making some more castings. So I'll bring you back on the next video where we will proceed in making molds for these 3 items here. Bye for now.